2, 3. Welcome to Slow News Day Live. My name is Steve Poikinen. I am here in beautiful Boulder Creek, California, where the flannel shirt is our state flag, the pit bull is our state bird, and cannabis is our state flower. I am joined this morning by my good friend Jason Carney. Jason, how's it going, man?
¿Qué pasó, hombre?
Hey. Where the fuck you at today?
I am in the beautiful Cameron Park, California. I have a day off, which is awe-inspiring and truly a terrifying prospect since I don't have many of those. And it's kind of nice.
Right arm. Before we jump into Bernie Sanders's campaign's, I guess, seasonal mole problem. YouTube has been rolling back the number of views on that Whitney Webb interview. Like, I'll go to sleep, wake up, it'll be, I guess the first day it was like 600 something, then an hour later it rolled back down to like 300 something, and back up and back down, whatever. I don't know what it's at right now. It was fucking over 1200 when I got off work, and when I woke up it was like back down to 700.
Right.
So YouTube doesn't want people to hear Whitney Webb talk about the report that she filed in Mint Press News that you should go read if you haven't. And you should go watch that interview that I did with Whitney if you haven't. Having said that, man, Lauren Steiner, who has been on the podcast, who I am acquainted with and friendly to, and that's about all I know how to define it.
I love the definition.
Lauren Steiner is a tenacious reporter in her own right, and regardless of like how right or wrong she is in her journalism, when she gets a hold of something, she doesn't let it go.
Right.
And the Washington Post yesterday, I believe, came out with a story about a labor dispute going on inside the Bernie Sanders campaign. Do you have that in front of you right now?
Yes, I do.
You want to pull that out or highlight that a little bit? Just a little bit.
If you want me to touch on it, I can
totally touch on it. I got a lot to interject, but
I kind of want to go over the bullet points. And now when I say this, I don't say this with disdain, because I think this is all but one is perfectly reasonable. And if there's a issue, then it needs to be held behind closed doors, and whoever leaked this particular information should have a serious ass whooping. But outside of that, here's a couple of the talking points. Essentially, the employees of the Bernie Sanders campaign would like to have overtime pay afforded to all hourly employees, healthcare benefits extended to all field organizers, which isn't a typical component of a campaign, a $20 hourly wage, and health benefits for all interns working out of the national headquarters. Again, interns aren't known for their benefits. Usually, historically speaking, interns and internships are known as kind of a shitty experience to build experience and connections and move forward. A clear but flexible work week. We're going to come back to that one. Dedicated days of the month where an employee is not on call. We're going to come back to that one. Dedicated meal breaks and mandatory time off between long shifts. That's reasonable. A total of 20 paid vacation days. Coverage for mental health care services, and don't have a beef with that. A pay equity review process for employees who feel they are being underpaid. A clear grievance and arbitration process. A cap on management compensation paid to staffer salaries. Now, all these sound moderately reasonable, except for two that really just stand out and irritate the shit out of me, because apparently these people have no understanding of how campaigns work. That would be the component of a clear but flexible work week and dedicated days of the month where an employee is not on call. If anybody out there has ever worked on a campaign, and I'm hoping multiple people have, you realize that a campaign is a 24/7 process during campaign season. Now, if you are a staffer of Bernie Sanders, of Barack Obama, of Kamala Harris, of Donald Trump, of anybody on a 365-day basis, this is reasonable. This is fine. This is perfect. But during campaign season, everybody on the campaign from top to bottom is going 24/7. So that's a little stupid, a little naive to say a clear but flexible work week and then dedicated days of the month where an employee is not on call. Anybody who has worked a campaign, you are perpetually on call, you are perpetually harassed and hounded to, you're needed here, you're needed there, we need you to do this, we need you to do that. It's just one of those things. But everything else is pretty reasonable. My main issue with this, and I believe this is yours, Steve, is that someone leaked out an internal discussion, an internal debate, an internal negotiation to just hurt the campaign. This has nothing to do with workers' rights. This is just to try to, I don't know if it's a mole, a plant, what have you, but this was just specifically done to hurt Bernie Sanders and the campaign.
Yeah, let's correctly frame that. What you're saying about, and let's be honest too, Bernie Sanders broke some fucking ground by having a unionized campaign. Right. Now, when he came out and said it, I didn't say this on the show, because I really, really, really wanted to be wrong. But I was like, fuck, what a dumbass. They're going to tank him. They're going to fucking, somebody's going to get in there. They're going to fucking whip up this shit about, all his rhetoric doesn't even match what he pays us. And blah, 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 blah. And they're going to say, like, we're out here working, this long, and we were only guaranteed this, this much for this long, and we're going fucking overtime. And like, and they're legitimate grievances in context. I don't want to take away from that. But what I do want to drive home is look for a Bernie Sanders campaign strike right around Iowa, or right around Super Tuesday, or right around one of the fall debates. Like, whenever it looks like he's really starting to gain traction. The Sanders campaign right now is going for 1 million individual donors. If they can hit that, look for a strike almost immediately after that, because you're right, Jason, there's another fucking mole, at least one, if not several, inside the Bernie Sanders campaign again. And I've said on this show that we're not going to do a fucking horse race show. I don't believe this is a horse race story. I believe this is a story about a concerted effort to infiltrate a presidential campaign because they think they might have to pay some taxes.
I don't disagree.
And might have to give up some conciliations to workers.
And that's the thing. This is an anti-worker move by the Democrat Party. Now, again, the grievances aren't the issue. And if it's handled in-house, that's handled in-house. I have no qualms with that, except for two of them. Two of them are frankly stupid. To me, having worked on campaigns, it's stupid. You know what you're getting into at that point. The intern one is questionable, but whatever. This is a new era, a new dawn. We shouldn't abuse interns. And if that works out, great. But two of them are frankly stupid. But what it is, and it's not even a serious story, but what it is to sidetrack from Bernie Sanders' campaign's message. And it's to take away the Medicare for All discussion, talk about college tuition being paid for, bringing down college debt, foreign interventions. Basically, the meat and potatoes of Bernie Sanders' campaign can't be focused on if he's having a quote-unquote labor dispute. This is blatant, and this isn't something that is masterful. This wasn't brilliant by the DNC. This is some old-school BS. It's a joke. But unfortunately, the mainstream media and a 1942 airplane coming over are latching onto this story and trying to perpetuate this particular issue that Bernie Sanders isn't really a man of the worker. He's not a man of the people. Look what he's doing to his own campaigners. Look what he's doing to his own staff. Oh, this guy's horrible. And that takes away from the opportunity of the Sanders campaign to keep hitting home on the issues that he was hitting on in 2016, which means you don't have to talk about it anymore.
Well, and I want to circle back around to this WaPo article too, because the Washington Post printed bits of Slack instant messages between organizers and I guess Faye Shakir.
Right.
Because it says right there in the Washington Post, messages start, hey Faze, and Faze Shakir for those of you who don't know, has a lot of DNC party insider connections. He's also a multimillionaire. He's also one of those people that appear to only be a part of the Sanders campaign to tank it. Like, it's hard to tell if Ro Khanna is Symone Sanders or if Shakir is Symone Sanders, or if they both are, and there's several more of them, because we do know for a fucking fact that Symone Sanders was a fucking mole inside the 2016 Bernie Sanders campaign. She immediately went and fucking like made good money betraying that campaign, fucking selling people out left and right, and now she's getting paid to lie for Joe Biden. She's been rewarded. There's a precedent, just like Elizabeth Warren has a template on how to be a fake progressive. And there's a template on how to torpedo a campaign for fun and profit.
And here's the thing too, is in America's attention span when it comes to politics, which should be a lot longer and should be a lot more involved, it isn't. And when you get stories like this, that's what people think. They think hypocrisy. And there's nothing a person hates more on a just gut level than hypocrisy. We see it in our politicians all the time. We castigate them for it. We have a low opinion of our politicians and what have you. And Bernie was one of those ones that kind of broke the mold in that respect. But it's stories like this that are being pumped out by the DNC and their affiliates to kind of torpedo getting actual change to happen in this country. This is purely the DNC protecting the wealthy and the corporate class of this country. And if people don't wake up to that, and if the lemmings that support the Democrat Party don't wake up to the idea that their party isn't in it for them, it's in it for the rich, then you're just going to have a consistent issue of the status quo. People are complaining about the status quo. They want change, and yet here they are supporting a party that is torpedoing one of the few campaigns that are actually trying to fight for actual institutional cultural change in this country.
And who knows if that's, I mean, I personally don't believe that's achievable inside the American political system. I don't think that you can legislate your way out of an oligarchy. I don't think that, I think there has to be a combined movement of decentralized activism, mass political protest, protests that aren't fucking parades with corporate sponsors and fucking little knitted hats you can get online in advance that support the Susan G. Komen Foundation or some fucking shit like that, dude.
Right. I'm with you. That's why, again, and I don't care how many times I catch heat on this, I'm a huge Antifa supporter. I'm proud to say that. I was one of the first people to come out and be supremely supportive of actions taken and explaining why those actions were taken, and also explaining that Antifa has a 99% more peaceful ways that they deal in their activism, but they're decentralized. There isn't a card-carrying member. We don't, there's not wearing of a particular shirt or a hairstyle or a nod or a secret handshake. It's decentralized. It's locally based. So when a white supremacy group or a far right group comes in, a fascist group, let's just be real, they deal with it at the local level. There isn't national mobilization unless a national event occurred in which it would be needed. The decentralized structure of Antifa is how all major left-wing groups should model protesting and having the ability to fight back. It's when you're centralized, you get infiltration, you get predictability, you basically fail. And again, left-wing groups in this country that want to go against what is happening in this country need to take a page from Antifa.
Well, you know how I feel about that. Like, if you can show me that there isn't 1.5 FBI agents per member of Antifa, I will personally travel to your house and I will build you an addition onto it, labor free. Okay, you buy the materials. I can't afford that shit. I can't afford to donate the labor too. But if you can prove to me that there isn't like an active officer of some law enforcement agency at the same or greater rate you got some excellent carpentry headed your way. You
Well,
do.
here's the thing. You're 100% right, but no political movement will not be infiltrated. Now, the decentralized ability of Antifa means that there's going to be less consistent infiltration. That's the key. And is there going to be infiltration? Obviously, because it is decentralized. We don't wear armbands, or they don't wear armbands. They don't have a secret handshake. They don't have a secret hairstyle or anything else. But I would take a page from them if you were to try to promote activism and protest in this country. Because again, when you had Martin Luther King and his organization, there was a lot of infiltration by the FBI. When you have any group that is centralized, that has a building, that has a brick and mortar setup, when you have a group that has dues that are paid to it, what have you, there's going to be infiltration, union movements, anything else that's associated with anti-government feelings. You're going to have infiltration by the authorities. It's pretty simple, but when you decentralize it, you have a less consistent and less. It makes it a lot less easier for these agencies to infiltrate.
You can't get infiltrated in your activism if it's you and your two friends going out and doing it. You can't get infiltrated in your activism if it's you and two of your classmates in a fucking punk band. You can't get infiltrated in your activism if you fucking.
That's why you keep it local, Steve, like you talked about. Like I'm saying with Antifa, it is a local based group that are triggered when, and I'm not using triggered in the cute, ironic sense, that they are activated when these groups come in, these fascist groups come in. That's when they're activated. That's when they go do their thing. There's not long-term planning. There isn't a secret handshake. It's when the moment is needed, they are there. And then that's it. And that's how it needs to be. It needs to be at the local level. It needs to be in response to things. Now you're talking, if you're talking proactive, that's where your general strike comes in.
Yeah, and that's why
the only thing that's going to work.
I need to have Tim Canova back on the show, because Tim can explain Taft-Hartley in that fucking constitutional law professor manner of his, and he's, well, way more handsome than me, so people will just intuitively listen to him more. We've got propaganda in the chat bringing up the Unity for J method of decentralized activism, and she's absolutely right. I think I'm not 100% on that, but I've got fucking whatever. Either way, dude, God love you. Thank you for tuning in. And you should totally listen to the tunes that I sent you, because most of them are friends of mine. That's just how I do it. Somebody's like, what kind of music do you do? I'm like, oh, here's this guy I fucking kind of hang out with, you know, when he's in town or I'm in his town. Like we're homies. We fucking camp together and shit.
I wish you would tell people mumble rap or something of that nature. Just do something that would be totally against type.
Right. Here's some electronic dance music that some fucking.
I compose symphonic orchestra.
Whatever, dude. I live in Santa Cruz County, man. This is some weird shit here. Like, Sound Tribe Sector 9 is based out of here, and that was 20-some years ago, and like half those dudes are fucking still here.
I wonder why.
Yeah. Because they started paying rent here and couldn't afford to move anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah.
Real quick though, but before we jump too far off, I want to point specifically to a history of both Faiz Shakir and Ro Khanna's commitment to sucking up to the DNC for no fucking reason at all, being themselves multimillionaires. Ro Khanna's, if not the richest, one of the richest people in Congress. There's a fantastic quote about Ro that I'm going to paraphrase until I can pull up. And it was delivered by a guy who wrote a book called The Four, which is an expose about our American tech monopolies. Do, 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 do. There we go. The quote from Scott Galloway, the author, is Khan is a smart man, a thoughtful man, but he's not a member of Congress. Nobody in that seat is. That's the seat we give to this lobby we call big tech. And that's a pretty damning summation of exactly what Ro Khan is there to do. As forthright and bold progressive soldier as he appears to be, he does not have a record of saying fuck all about surveillance capitalism or data mining or the fucking any of the ways that big tech operates. You know, he's there on net neutrality because he has to be, because even the people who are in big tech put up a front about being for net neutrality because they themselves don't control ISPs yet.
But here's the thing, Steve. He's a fan favorite of TYT, so that must make him one of us. That has to, doesn't it?
So look, Savage Joy, right? Who's a friend of the show, had Ro on her show. Like he was the most recurring guest, elected member of Congress, or guest, period. He was the most recurring guest, period, on her show. During her first, like, I think 16 months. And we got to, I want to say, September of last year, maybe November. And he backed out of an appearance. And then he started ghosting her completely. And now here we are in 2019, where he's getting paid by the Sanders campaign to represent Bernie Sanders. Joy is, I believe, I don't know if she's a paid volunteer, but I know she's like an official volunteer for the campaign. And she's got like a cordial relationship with Nina Turner. And Rose still won't go on her show. Rose is still ghosting her. So I mean it's Ro looks like CIA. I don't know if there's a particular CIA look. I mean, there kind of is, but what Ro looks like is looks like he's perfect to represent Silicon Valley in Congress and be as far to the left as he's possibly allowed to be, knowing that if he pushes too far, his seat's gone like that, or they can grab the votes to shut down whatever it is he's trying to do. So he can be symbolic without being effective and still give giant breaks to tech, which is what he's ostensibly there to do.
You're not going to get an argument from me. I mean, you pretty much summarized it. That's a thing, and it's sad because people don't have the time to sit here and analyze records and what was said against what is being said now, who's paying who, et cetera, et cetera. So when Ro Khanna speaks, a majority of Americans go like, "Oh, the progressives talk. I like that progressive. That progressive's a good guy." Blah 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 blah. Come to find out, if you look at what he's associated with and what he's de-associating with, you can come pretty quickly to the fact that he's just a DNC hack.
So I've been calling him a used car salesman for a while, but like a really high-end used car salesman.
And he's pumping out those Teslas.
They used to yell at me in Ron Placone's chat for it when Get Your News On with Ron had like 43 viewers. You know? Well, that's the thing that used to happen, and I'm kind of glad that, not for the sake of the country, but for the sake of the eventual mass mobilization that needs to happen in accordance with our decentralized activism, that Ro is getting exposed as this high-end used car salesman. He's got love tweets to fucking Tom Perez that are still up for some reason.
Right. Here, I'm going to give you a theory, and you could roll with it, you could laugh at it, you can do whatever you need to do with it. But here's my theory. The left is looking for leaders so desperately so vociferously that they are latching on to people that are clearly not progressives, that are clearly not members of the left. And unfortunately, it creates the ability for people to be misled, and it causes people to put their beliefs incorrectly into individuals that on the surface may appear, Kamala Harris, to be progressive, people gig, but in all reality are just DNC hacks. It's this desperation and not knowing where to look, because people need to be led. And that's a sad fact. I would love a nation of individualists who could go and say, well, this is wrong. I'm going to stand up to this because this is wrong. But people don't have the either expertise, the education, or the time to actually take on and confront this as a leader. Anybody who comes out and says, follow me, you have to look at skeptically in this era. You have to do a deep dive on who they've been associated with. Where have they gotten past money? Are they a part of the wealthy class? Are they a part of the workers class? There's a lot of questions that have to go into it, and people don't have the time because they are buried under debt, ridiculous work hours, and what little time they have, they want to spend with their friends and family, which is totally understandable. I get it. I totally get it. I mean, look at you and I. We work ridiculous hours, yet we still have to fucking pack away some research, get a show going, pre-production, all that other fun stuff. That takes away, any free leisure time that we have. I don't expect people to jump on that, but we need to stop putting all of our eggs in the quote unquote progressive basket. And when they say, "Oh, I'm a progressive," Kamala Harris has come out and said she's a progressive, yet her record flies directly in the face of that. Her prosecutorial record alone shows that she has no interest in social justice reforms. Name anybody else who's called themselves a quote unquote progressive. Biden, I can't stand, but you got to give the guy credit. He was one of the first people. I'm a freaking moderate. I'm not for that progressive thing. He was honest about
So
it.
did Klobuchar. She did. She was like, "Fuck no, I'm not progressive. Look at me. I'm literally like Dianne Feinstein from 25 years ago.
Right.
I am second generation American Thatcher. Fuck you, hippie. Fuck you." Like she was pretty upfront about that.
And this is nothing personal, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want people to think I'm attacking Senator Harris for anything other than a prosecutorial record and her record while in office. That's it. It's the Hillary Clinton thing 2.0. I want to be clear because I was attacked as a misogynist when I'm an intersectional feminist, for Christ's sakes. So at the end of the day, let me be 100% abundantly clear. I have no beef with Senator Harris as a human being. Do you, boo-boo? But when it comes to her prosecutorial record and her record in office, that is the only thing I attack for Senator Harris. And I hope that our followers and people who watch her show only go off the facts, off of her record, and off of just the essentially the public component of her. And
I have fundamental problems
not a
with
progressive.
anyone
She's
who's
not a
obvious.
leftist. She has no interest in representing the people or the workers of this country.
Jason brought up a good thing pre-show that even the articles don't try and associate the funds these campaigns are raising. Harris's campaign, Pete Buttigieg, Joe Biden, all that shit. They're talking about who is more attractive to Barack Obama and DNC mega donors. Mega donors that include Jeffrey Katzenberg, who gave the Young Turks $20 million. I want to ask you a question real quick, and maybe some of the people that are still hanging out and in the chat can throw out an answer too. Is the Bernie Sanders campaign gullible or naive? Both? Desperate for people to work with them? Has the pressure been applied like it was exposed in that DCCC blacklist thing? We're not going to, fuck you consultants will never see the light of day again. You campaign operatives, political operatives, fucking journalists that cover it, you're fucking done if you work for this, this candidate. Has that been, because I feel like we would have already heard that more than once if it had. So I like, how do you keep hiring fucking moles? Like, year after year after year. And why do you just jump into this? Okay, we're going to unionize our campaign, but we're not going to fucking either work overtime, pay overtime, or pay less than what we promised if our salaried workers go beyond 60 hours a week, 50 hours. Like, none of that shit really seems like it was well thought out. So is it naivety? Is it gullibility? Is it like, oh, I believe in the goodness of people, and surely anyone who would want to come over and work on this campaign is going to be a good and
I think
honorable
if you want my
worker?
honest opinion, and this
Yeah.
is not going to go over well with Sanders people, and I don't blame them, and I'm not. This isn't a criticism per se. This is just an observation. In 2016, Bernie ran a literal grassroots insurgency that was fueled by people's anger toward the status quo, the inequality in this country, and the just overall shittiness of everything that surrounds us. And there was a purity to that. There was a sense of, we're doing the right thing this time, people. Let's keep going. Let's keep fighting. The DNC is against us. Clinton people are against us. The Republicans are certainly against us. And if everybody's against us, we have to be doing the right thing. I think, unfortunately, as Bernie became a quote unquote political rock star, he started feeling the pressure. For example, when I know you and I, Steve, during 2016 had this conversation when Bernie came out for Hillary, and there was discussions of, oh, his wife was being targeted, this was being targeted, he was being pressured, blah blah blah. I think he saw the opportunity to take over the Oval Office. And I think the allure of that power and that historic precedent and the ability to potentially affect change. I say potentially because we know how I feel about the office of the President of the United States. It's ineffectual at best. Uh, it's one of those things where I believe that the people thought, and I think this kind of dabbles into naivety, if you will. I like how you brought that in as a possibility. Um, I think Bernie is noble in what he wants to try to do. I think he had a taste of success. I think he had a taste of being in a leadership position in which he was pretty much elected the most popular politician in the country since 2016.
Still
And I
is, I
think that he
believe.
feels like to reach a broader audience, he has to tone down and moderate and become a member of the Democrat Party, essentially, to reach a wider audience when it was that insurgency campaign and when he was being himself and hostile and aggressive and putting out what he was putting out that got him success. I think, unfortunately, and I hate saying this because I've been on record as saying a Sanders supporter. I look at Bernie and I think that he wants this too bad at this point. And so he's willing to go by the DNC playbook and the classic playbook on how to run for president, as opposed to the guerrilla style campaign that he ran in 2016. And I understand before people jump my shit, yes, this is 2020. People know about Bernie now, et cetera, et cetera. That doesn't mean you need to deviate from the digital presence that you were, from speaking out on the issue, showing up to the protest, doing what you did in 2016 that got you to where you're at, not falling into the trap of running a Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton, Pete Buttigieg, Joe Biden type of campaign, or even a Donald Trump type of campaign. People want something different. Hence why Donald Trump was elected. Besides the
Well, that
reasons
and the
in 3
fucking
states.
billions of dollars in free airtime that the Clinton campaign directed the fucking media to give them, and the fucking fact that Hillary Clinton rigged a primary just so she could be the most unlikable Democrat in the history of always, to fucking run a campaign based on, we're going to abandon the working class and get white fucking suburban conservatives who are so repulsed by the thought of Donald Trump that the only possible logical outcome they'll come to is vote for Hillary Clinton. We don't need the working class. We don't need the Rust Belt. We don't need progressives. Fuck you, progressives. We don't want or need your vote. We certainly don't want people on the left.
They wanted disaffected Republicans. They said it out loud.
More
It's
than
on
one.
record. Jennifer, what's her face?
So when you do that, when you rig a primary to run the most unlikable Democrat in the history of always against 3D hate crime reality TV show game show host who understands optics and understands how to work a crowd and understands how to take people's money and not pay them or fucking give them what they promised and not give a fuck about it.
But that's a status quo.
You're gonna lose, man. You're gonna lose.
But that's a status quo. That's been the accepted practice since this country has been founded. You don't have to follow through on your promises. You don't have to do anything else. And again, I want to stress one of the things on people of the 99% I'm all about is integrity and being willing to attack your own side and criticize and critique it as needed. And I firmly believe that the Sanders campaign needs to get their head out of their collective ass and stop trying to run a campaign like everybody else is and go back to that 2016 model, obviously tweak it for 2020, but that's how you were able to reach people. I mean, let's be real. If everything hashed out correctly and there was no dabbling, if you will, by the DNC, we'd probably have a Bernie Sanders presidency at this point, as opposed to a Donald Trump presidency. And I think that is hanging in that campaign's head right now, that they feel like they did something wrong, maybe, by being the way they were, even though it was what made them successful. You can't come out guerrilla style and then turn into the establishment and expect people to hang on and be like, "Oh no, this is great, this is super."
Well, I personally think
this.
it was. I personally think it was do that or we kill every member of your family while you watch, and then we kill you. Like, but that's a
Right.
theory. I think that's why he's allowed to continue this campaign. And really, honestly, now that you bring that shit up, and I kind of fucking circle back around to my fallback position on it, I think the only reason he's allowed to fucking run a campaign is so it can implode publicly and destroy what little hope there is on the fucking the part of the political center left that won't be like, fucking, I'm grabbing a pitchfork.
But that's the
You
thing. You
know?
and I've discussed this. You never put all of your eggs in one basket. We, as activists, as journalists, as whatever the hell we need to be labeled as, are constantly trying to tell the public it's not about one person, it's about the movement. Even during the Sanders campaign in 2016, there was a bunch of us saying it's not about one person, it's about the movement. And that's what needs to be key here. Looking at Sanders, whether he succeeds or falls flat on his face during the primaries, and we already know it's stacked against him, that doesn't mean progressivism in the left in this country is dead. It's going to take a lot more than burying Bernie Sanders in that campaign to end what the left is seeing, how they're activated, how they're motivated, and how they're going to win. This is a battle, ladies and gentlemen. This isn't something where we were going to win overnight. This isn't an hour and a half movie set up in Hollywood where there's a happy ending. This is a long and protracted battle because this country has been under the status quo since its inception. It doesn't just change in 3 years. It doesn't change in 2 years. This is going to be a long, protracted fight against the capitalists. This is going to be a long, protracted fight against corporate interest and the wealthy, and however you want to frame it. This is going to take time. We cannot put our eggs in the Bernie Sanders campaign and say that we are going to live or die off the success of it.
And there seems to be an unfortunate number of people who, like, that's it. You know, like whether they disengage entirely and go get a fucking corporate job, making sure that they're war crime adjacent for the health benefits or whatever, dude. I don't know. I don't, you know. But I've had running scenarios going on throughout this entire last 4 years, and one of them correlates with we're due for a fucking economic meltdown. JP Morgan's CEO saying it, fucking Morgan Stanley, like all those guys, fucking, they're all like, oh yeah, it's coming, and they all say it's a year or two out, which means it's already showing its face. It is here in California. Steve Mnuchin, like a week or two ago, came out and said, we're broke.
We talked about that when nobody else was talking about that. In September, the federal government will be without money unless there is the legislative body makes more money, essentially. helps to set up an emergency expenditure and budget that'll last through the fiscal year. And one, let's be real, that was the tax cuts that fueled a lot of that, and that's going to help fuel another recession. This ridiculous tax cut that's geared toward the wealthy. Um, and secondly, the incompetence shown by both parties in both branches of government that legislate or promote legislation, um, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous,
Well,
and
I mean,
I
you can
just.
call it incompetence. I refer to it more as them doing what they're paid or told to do.
But here's the thing:
We,
it's blatant now. It's blatant.
okay, if you believe that there's any accuracy at all to climate change, climate theory, climate collapse, and I'm on record multiple times saying that until any climate data that is presented to me incorporates geoengineering, it's going to be incomplete fucking data, and therefore I can't trust 100% of it.
If I were to be honest and being transparent, I'm 70% in the camp of obviously climate change. I mean, I would say I'm about 70% sure at this juncture that human beings have affected the climate and climate change is occurring.
Let me tell you where I'm at on this, because what I do see is the argument that there's a money making agenda the way that it's presented, because it always winds up with end user carbon tax, and here, change your lifestyle, human, while the fucking companies get to pollute away, while the military gets to pollute away. Like, but you, the individual, are solely responsible for fixing the fucking planet, and we are going to make it punitive if you don't. Signed the government. Like, I get that argument. I do, because that's what happens. That's the way it works with the fucking legislation. The That's where it really doesn't fucking matter how right the science is, because the end result is always the same. It's always damaging, it's always punitive, and it's always bullshit. It always only affects the individual and not the people who are ultimately massively more directly responsible
Right.
for,
Like the
poisoning.
carbon offset or whatever that companies can buy the carbon deal, and then they can buy and trade in carbon emissions and what have you. I totally agree with you, but at the same token, I and let it be known, I'm not a member of Greenpeace. I'm not what you would consider an environmentalist. I put it in my, and I've said this frequently on People of the 99% or any of the articles that I write. I leave environmentalism for environmentalists because my issues are different. They are institutional, they're cultural, they are policy driven, and it has little to nothing to do with the environment. So when I say this, know that I'm not some type of environmentalist. I do believe that there are things happening in this world that we help facilitate and
Oh yeah,
accelerate.
without a doubt,
And I
100%.
think anything that gears toward putting a cap on the damage that we've done and not made the bleeding any worse is only beneficial for future generations. So I do support and I do believe human beings, like I said, I'm about 70 to 75% sure that climate change is very, very real and we are very, very much involved in this acceleration. But from your standpoint, I totally agree. And I could see where you're coming from that perspective as just another methodology of capitalism at work.
So
Scare the
that
hell out of people.
we know there's green capitalism. That's what the Green New Deal is presented by AOC is. It's green capitalism, and fuck green capitalism. Like, if if we want a sustainable future, if we want a sustainable planet, we're not going to get there through capitalistic mechanisms. We're not. Um, there's No one's going to make sustainability a for-profit motive.
Not through capitalism.
Nobody.
You're
Not
depending on the marketplace to trigger things through capitalism, and that's going to take forever.
So in the chat, real quick, because this is going to be a great way to go to the last thing I threw at you. I know you've got about 20 or so minutes. Chris Walker in the chat says, scared Trump will get into a really big war like George W. did to get reelected. The other story that I sent to Jason earlier this morning that I wanted to cover was about the reestablishing of a military base, of a new an existing air base in Saudi Arabia. Because we're going to fucking go to war with Iran, dude. There's all these articles about Iranian gunboats and UK tankers and other tankers and these tankers and this bombs, and we shot down an Iranian drone, and fucking Trump comes out and says, no, we didn't shoot down an Iranian drone, and then Iran releases the footage of the drone being shot at by the fucking aircraft. You know, we've already manufactured consent. We manufactured consent fucking decades ago.
Right.
We need to manufacture enough confusion to where going to war allows for the slow motion crucifixion of Julian Assange, the rigging of another presidential election, the rigging of who knows how many down ballot races, the tanking of the economy. Fuck, dude, like there's so much more. Jeffrey Epstein, for one. That comes to mind. Let's not forget that there's fucking pedophiles running the country. And that R. Kelly and fucking Jeffrey Epstein go to jail within like a week of each other. And R. Kelly gets called out of the Trump Plaza Hotel in Chicago.
Right.
Just a nice little twist.
Here's the thing, and if this doesn't wake people up to the horrors of capitalism, I honestly don't know what will. These two men, along with others, have been able to commit their heinous, vile, disgusting crimes because they've had money, because the law doesn't apply to them in the same way as it applies to the rest of us. And it's been excused by even some of the fans of R. Kelly. You know, oh no, it's fake, blah blah blah. But even, you know, she looked 18 or whatever the excuse, you know, I've heard out of those camps. Capitalism has helped facilitate people to commit some of the most heinous acts the world has ever seen. It's one of those things where, again, the central premise isn't so much the individual criminals, it's the totality of capitalism and what it allows and what it says is okay to further capitalism. And at the end of the day, we have to look at this collectively and say, can we tolerate this anymore? Can we tolerate pedophiles in places of power or in the entertainment industry? Michael Jackson is a prime case on this. There are people who literally feel his music is brilliant, but as a person, he's a vile human being and have a problem separating the two, or separate it and divorce it so much that they're like two different individual people.
I'm not gonna get into Michael Jackson right now because that's like 8 hours on a show, dude. It really is. There's so much wild shit.
But you see
there.
why I cite it, though, because it's the most
so
popular.
Much. Well,
way
the guys who made that
this
documentary fucking had to come out and be like, "Yeah, that was bullshit. It didn't match any of the timelines. We sort of fucking yeah." Anywho, I want to go back to there's an article in NBC News. U.S. military has begun reestablishing air base inside Saudi Arabia. And in June, the U.S. military began moving equipment and hundreds of troops back to a base in Saudi Arabia that the U.S. deserted more than 15 years ago. I believe, at the beginning of the summer, deployed 1,500 troops to Saudi Arabia. We just deployed another 500. Most of those guys are engineers there to refurbish the base. This is the base that we staged Persian Gulf War operations out of. This is a property that we had leased to the Saudi Air Force, and now we're just suddenly getting it back. So like John Bolton's getting his way. apparently. He's still there. John Kiriakou, I got to call him on this. I do. Wrote an article in Consortium News a while ago called John Bolton's Long Goodbye. And when I had him on the show about a month ago, I asked him specifically about, like, when do you think we'll see him out of here? And he was like, oh, by the end of summer, kind of thing. I don't know. We'll see. What do you think about that, Jay? The ramping up of a brand new airbase, or brand new refurbished airbase.
I'm thinking the United States past relationship and current relationship with Saudi Arabia is something that if anybody calls themselves a leftist, a left of center, a centrist, I don't care what you call yourself, you should be disgusted with and demand an end to. Khashoggi isn't the only thing Saudi Arabia has done. Their history of oppressing women, members of the LGBTQ plus community, freedom of speech, any form of dissent, anything of that nature it's vile, and we've had this, and people call it an uneasy alliance. I think it's an out and out friendship, buddy partnership, where the United States doesn't even turn a blind eye. They actively support the royal family of Saudi Arabia and keeping in doing what they're doing so that they can have a strategic stranglehold in the region. As long as they're friends with Saudi Arabia is, let's be real, a major player in Middle East policy and politics. Really, at the end of the day, it's Israel and Saudi Arabia on one side controlling a portion of the Middle East and support, and it's Iran on the other side. We have this open bullshit with an authoritarian regime that horribly oppresses its people for strategy's sake, and we have no problem with it. And there needs to be more demand by every American in this country to end that partnership. But when we talk about opening this new airbase, anybody who hasn't been paying attention might be surprised. This is a natural progression. You're going to see an uptick in soldiers in the region. You're going to see Kuwait sign on. You're going to see UAE sign on. You're going to see Saudi Arabia sign on. And there's going to be a lot more forces moving to that region. Why? Just look at a map, and that'll answer all your questions.
So the last two lines in the article are key, because they kind of have to let you know a little bit, right? Like whether it's a wink and a nudge, or they have to declare intent because that's what the fucking satanic pedophile ritual calls for, or like however it plays out, you know? The last two lines say, the officials described this deployment as expeditionary rather than permanent basing, with the new presence remaining there as long as tensions remain high with Iran. And the official said Saudi Arabia has already agreed to pay some of the costs associated with having U.S. personnel and assets there. So the Jimmy Dore hasn't played the clip in a while, but for a while was routinely playing a clip of John Kerry before a Senate committee as then Secretary of Defense, like bragging, they're gonna pay us to come in and wipe out their enemies for them. They're gonna pay us to do it. We can make money off of this. Like fucking giggling over it, giddy over the thought that Saudi Arabia wanted to foot the bill to have a U.S. military presence there. And it's this really fucking unholy alliance with the U.S., Israel, and Saudi Arabia, where any and all genocide is good genocide, or any and all apartheid is good apartheid, and radical Wahhabist Islam is not radical Islamic terrorism, because we've got a fucking blood pact for oil. And maybe we told the Wahhabists, like, okay, look, during the rapture, you guys are cool, but you got to like let us accelerate the timetable on the rapture. And look, we need to fucking have Donald Trump come in here and be like, let's move the Capitol. Yeah, let's move the Capitol. What else does the book say? Come ride backwards on a donkey. We'll make something like that happen. We'll get people on it. Like, let's Seven Seals. Okay, somebody go get me 7 seals.
you're the deep diver. I'm the international relations concentration with my degree. And for me, it's a lot simpler. It's less cabal and more strategy. It's geopolitics 101. Saudi Arabia and the United States have been in a partnership for what, 70 years at least, since the kingdom, the family Saud took over. And it's one of those things where not only does it help for oil, not only does it help for other components, but it does help the United States remain keeping a foothold in the region and the ability to destabilize
yeah,
other governments.
an imperialistic force for blood and oil based on destabilization and war crimes. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And that's the
That,
thing.
that thing.
It's amazing when Saudi Arabia has an enemy, all of a sudden we have an enemy, and vice versa.
Well, and Iran is the perfect fucking scapegoat because we literally built the monster.
And again,
Not once, but twice.
I am adamantly opposed to the Iranian regime. I'm an atheist. I am adamantly opposed to theocracies. I am adamantly opposed to the authoritarian regime that is the Iranian government. I am not opposed to the Iranian people, who, for a fact, will be the ones that suffer from any type of conflict, not the regime. The regime is not going to. They try to have the Green Revolution, if we remember that. They did try to rise against their government, but they have so many people entrenched in so many different areas, and they have no sense of common decency or humanity. And I'm talking about the Iranian government against their own people, that they were slaughtering them, they were throwing them in prison for it. They would just disappear if they had any form of political dissent. So at the end of the day, when I say that I don't want a war with Iran, it's not because I support the horrible authoritarian theocracy that is the Iranian government. It's because the people are going to be the one that suffer, and they don't deserve it. They haven't done anything to anyone. They are not the ones running Hezbollah. They're not the ones who are out there doing any of the atrocious acts against themselves. This is the Iranian government, and if you want to target the Iranian government, go ham. Do what you got to do. Figure it the fuck out, but leave the people of Iran out of
it. In 2003, The Onion came out with an article. No. No, it was 2001. It was right after September 11th. And the article said billionaire scions battle for world dominance on global stage, and it had a picture of Bush and bin Laden.
That's ironic how 16 years later that is a sad fact.
Well, I mean, it's also a I mean, it's fucking. It goes back to fucking whose book is more right, or who has the best hats, or fucking whatever. Like it's. God, you know where I'm at on the hats,
right?
And clearly, I fancy hats myself, and I fancy decorations in my hats. I do. This one's from the Seedless fucking clothing company. Remember them from back in the day?
Jesus.
If anybody remembers Seedless, dude, holla at your boy, man. I'd fucking.
You're all about accessories, Steve. Look at you.
I'll rock that shit. Why not be festive? I have a plain first name. The challenge is to rise above the commonality of your name. Right?
I like it.
And
yeah, I got about 5 minutes, so.
Okay, well, don't tell me that you don't have some bit of personal flair, Jason. I won't believe it.
Oh, me? I rock a pink suitcase. I'm not scared. I admit it. I rock it. I know I'm just trying to defy gender normatives. We all have our kinks. What can I say? No, you're not off on your analysis. We take it from two different approaches, but they come to the same conclusion, that the United States and Saudi Arabia have had a long, disgusting relationship with one another, and that's going to help facilitate any type of armed conflict in the Middle East at this point with Iran.
So real quick, man, the war in Afghanistan is old enough to get a parental waiver to join the army and go fight in Afghanistan. I just want to remind people of that. The war in Iraq is old enough to have a learner's permit or a driver's license in some states. We have only we've only like merged our weapons of manufacturers of war companies. Raytheon and United Technologies are expected to merge. Well, former head lobbyist for Raytheon, Michael Espar, I believe, is acting Secretary of Defense. When we talk about this partnership or strategic friendship between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia, we should not. We shouldn't take it as like, oh, these are two people working together to do good. These are two countries working together to expand empire at the fucking on the backs of a lot of dead bodies who weren't doing fucking anything other than trying to live their lives. What did I want to fucking? I wanted to mention something before you split, and now I can't fucking remember what it was. Was it in the chat? I don't know. I had something and then I ran off on a different tangent. I completely did. It might have been about soccer. There's World Cup talk. Do you know that the World Cup is going to take place in Qatar? The 2020 World Cup.
5,000 degrees there. That's a perfect conditions to play soccer in. What the actual fuck?
I played up until I fell off the roof and shattered my leg. 125 degrees is not when you need to be fucking sprinting, you know, with the added fucking heat and humidity of 48 or 63,000 asses in the stands. Dude, again, PG&E was doing flyovers all last week. It sucked ass. Line clearance, you know, pictures and shit. Santa Cruz County was a test county for a new thing with PG&E where under the auspice of fire prevention, PG&E has the right to cut down however many trees from this many feet on your road, property, blah, 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 blah. And then they just take the wood. Like, you don't have the option of keeping the wood.
That's bullshit.
Yeah. So redwood is a lot of fucking money a board foot. Oak and madrone as firewood is now like $450 or $500 a cord. A cord.
Goddamn.
Right, dude. It's rough. Jason is a Celtics fan. That's weird. You're a Celtics fan?
Yeah.
Okay, go Lakers. Fuck the Lakers. Fuck the Lakers right in the goat here.
Game on, Raheem. I was born in Boston. I can't help it. It's a part of my DNA.
I was born in Central Indiana. I was a Bulls fan until I figured out that professional basketball is just as fucking rigged as professional wrestling, and I don't really
watch. Pacers fan at the time? I'm curious.
No, man. No, I wasn't. I don't know, dude. Like, we didn't really fuck with Indianapolis that much. We really didn't. I was old enough that I was already a Steelers fan when the Colts snuck out of Baltimore in the middle of the night and fucking shot all over that town and showed up in Indianapolis. They train, their fucking spring training is in my hometown.
Right.
My first memory of that is fucking being told to fuck off by Eric Dickerson when I asked him for an autograph.
He's a sweet guy, really.
So really, fuck the Indianapolis Colts. You know, Steelers. That's something that, like,
Panthers.
Conan and I can agree on, at least, even though he doesn't do the footballs as much. Yeah, I know you got to split. I'll hang out for a few more minutes and answer chat questions. Maybe I'll even remember what the fuck I was going to say.
All right, brother. It's been real. It's been fun. Thanks to the audience who showed up, asked questions, got involved. Love it. Keep asking questions, keep getting involved, and share the hell out of this.
Jason Carney, thank you so much. You can find Jason, People in 99% on Facebook and at Paramcorn on Twitter.
That's right. I'm out of here, folks.
All right, man. Have a great day. Slave labor in Qatar to build the stadiums. Yes, I did. Okay, so look, man. Every once in a while, John Oliver would do some shit that wasn't 100% contracted by the CIA, and he did this whole thing on Qatar in the World Cup, and he had some pretty decent information. Sports are glorified indentured servitude. Oh, yo, dude, I'm aware of that. I'm not out here being like a super. It sucks that like I can't take my kids to a baseball game. I can't. It's like a $500 night. And the people who work inside of sports complexes, arenas, shit like that, they all look dead inside. You know, it's fucking depressing. I think that the baseball players union, Major League Baseball players union, is an example of what a union could accomplish on just this disgusting scale. You know, I think to somebody getting a $360 million contract speaks volumes to the organizing power of their union in terms of what they're getting out of management regarding their cut. But I think it's disgusting that it takes place. You know, yeah. Miss Tree, Chris, Karen, Walker, how's it going? I don't know who else is here, but that's who's active. If anyone has anything wild they want to throw out, please do that. I am hopefully going to be co-hosting the next Free Assange Vigil on Action for Assange's channel on Wednesday. We won't be doing a Saturday morning show next week. I will be doing some volunteer work with a local historical society that I am a part of. Yeah, I don't know how long the delay is on this, so who knows, really. Yeah, look, I think we're good. You guys have a wonderful day. Enjoy your Saturday. Get out and do something. Fucking create a small little act of dissent, however you can. Good luck to us all. Steve Boykin, it's been Slow News Day.